All right, guys, we are back. We are going to have our reading time today. So, page 68. I'm excited because you'll see it when you turn to page 68. Um, Today is a play. So, you get to do a play with your parents, your family. How fun is that going to be? Sorry, parents, but I think this is going to be fun. Um, so, we're first of all, you have to participate. So what's going to happen? I'm going to try to do this as diplomatically as I can, but I'm going to just let you guys choose who's going to be which of the characters, and we'll talk about those in just a minute. I will be the narrator, so both narrators, so you guys don't have to worry about that. But there's going to need to be somebody to be chosen to be the Mama Mouse. I think Mama Mouse is one of them. Yep, Mama Mouse is one. So choose somebody to be Mama Mouse. Then you need to choose someone to be Hickory. And then somebody has to be Dickory, and somebody has to be Doc. So there's got to be 4 people. And if there's just mom and you, then you choose between the 2 of you. 2 of you are Mama Mouse or Hickory, and then the other one's Dickory and Doc, however you want to do it. But you have to choose who's going to be those characters. Now, if you want to be all of them, fine, but you have to give different voices and different expressions to each of them. So you have to make it good. You have to make it interesting. And please send me videos today. I would love to see you guys, even just a little snippet, performing your story for me, okay? So I just think it's going to be a lot of fun. So plan it out, really bring out that expression, make it fun. I'll kind of give you an example, but then I'm going to kind of sit quietly during those times where it's Mama Mouse, Hickory, Dickory, or Doc, and obviously you can tell we're doing what we're talking about, the little nursery rhyme, but I will kind of sit quietly and then let you do it, and then I'll come back in as narrator and all that kind of thing. So I think this is gonna be fun. It'll be a fun thing to try. So look at the top of page 68. It says dig deeper. This selection is a play, and a play is divided into acts. So there's different acts that you have. And then those acts are divided into scenes. So in act 1, there's going to be scene 1, scene 2, whatever. Acts and scenes often change when the character or the setting changes. So whenever there's a different character that comes in or is introduced, or if there's a different setting when it's placed someplace different. As you read this play, ask yourself what changes from one act to another act, which actors appear in each act, and why the scene changed. Okay, so it's going to be fun. So Hickory, Dickory, and Doc, and this is adapted from L. Frank Baum. And look at the little box at the bottom. It says this story is based on the poem Hickory, Dickory, Doc, found in Mother Goose's Nursery Rhymes. L. Frank Baum decided to turn this and other silly rhymes into lovable and exciting stories. So this is something that I want you to think about, because you could do something like this. But he took this poem and he's like, oh, I'm going to just imagine a whole storyline out of it. And that's what he did with Hickory, Dickory, and Doc. Act 1. So this is our first act, scene 1. And like I said, I'll be the narrator. Within the hollow wall of an old brick mansion, away up near the roof, there lived a family of mice. Mama Mouse liked this snug little home because the draft that came through the rafters made it cool in summer, and they were near enough to the chimney to keep warm in the wintertime. Besides the Mama Mouse, there were 3 children named Hickory and Dickory and Doc. Okay, hold on. Now I have to be narrator 2. Mama Mouse was a brave mouse and knew that it was her duty to find food for her little ones. So she went bravely to work, gnawing through the baseboard that separated the pantry from the wall. It took her some time to do this, for she could only work at night when the cat was fast asleep. Hold on. I hope I don't choke myself. All right. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. At last, Mamma Mouse gnawed a hole through the baseboard large enough for her to get through into the pantry, and then her disappointment was great to find the bread jar covered over with a tin pan. One of you. Okay. But just then she spied a barrel of flour standing upon the floor, and that gave her new courage, for she knew she could easily gnaw through that. Gathering the children a few crumbs that were scattered about, she ran back into the wall and scrambled up to her nest. Okay, so that's the end of scene 1. Let me get this back off. And now we're going to start with scene 2. I hope you guys figured out who's going to be Mama and Hickory and Dickory and Doc. Okay. Scene 2. Hickory and Dickory and Doc were very glad to get the crumbs, for they were hungry, and when they had eaten, they all curled up alongside their mother and slept soundly throughout the day. That worked out perfectly. Now I have time to get ready. She kissed each one of them goodbye and ran down the wall on her errand. When they were left alone, Hickory wanted to go to sleep again, but little Doc was wide awake and tumbled around so in the nest that his brothers were unable to sleep. Okay, whoever's Doc. Dickory. Doc again. Hickory. Doc. Dickory. Hickory again. All right, so I hope that you're reading with good expression, and make sure that they each have different voices. And you guys know how to do it because you did it the other time really, really well. And you guys were really funny. Like, I wish I could go with Mother some night. It's no fun to stay here all the time. She will take us when we're big enough. We are big enough now. And if I knew the right way, I would go, I know a way out. You know, make their voices interesting. Okay, Act 2 now, Scene 1. Oh, first of all, think about this. What are they choosing to do? They're choosing to not obey Mama. They know that they're supposed to stay in that nest, but they want to go out and explore. Will that get them in trouble? We're going to find out. Act 2, Scene 1. So the 3 disobedient little mice started off, with Hickory showing the way. Soon they came to a crack in the wall. Hickory stuck his head through and found everything quiet, for the family of people that lived in the house were fast asleep. He squeezed through the crack, followed by his 2 brothers. Their little hearts beat very fast, for they knew if they were discovered, they would have to run for their lives. But the house was so still, they gained courage and crept along over the thick carpet until they came to a stairway. So very carefully they crept down the stairs and reached the hallway of the house, and here they were much surprised by all they saw. There was a big rack for hats and coats and an umbrella stand and 2 lovely carved chairs, and most wonderful of all, a tall clock that stood upon the floor and ticked out the minutes in a serious voice. Then, seeing that the clock paid no attention to them, but kept ticking steadily away and seemed to mind its own business, they plucked up their courage and began running about. Only seconds later, Dickory uttered a delighted squeal that brought his brothers to his side. There, in a corner, lay nearly the half of a bun which little May had dropped when nurse carried her upstairs to bed. It was a great discovery for the three mice, and they ate heartily until the last crumb had disappeared. With full bellies, the mice continued to explore. On to scene 2. Nearly an hour past midnight, they returned to the clock and looked at it curiously. He found a hole that led to the inside of the clock, and into this he stuck his head. He could hear the ticking plainer than ever now. But looking way up to the top of the clock, he saw something shining brightly and thought it must be good to eat if he could only get at it. Without saying anything to his brothers, Doc ran up the side of the clock until he came to the works. He was just about to nibble at the glistening wheel to see what it tasted like when suddenly, bang, went the clock. The noise nearly deafened the poor little mouse. He gave a scream of terror and ran down the clock as fast as he could go. Sorry. And back they ran up the stairs and down the hall, squeaking and squealing with all their might. Okay, scene 3. It was only when they were safe in their nest again that they stopped to breathe, and their little hearts beat fast for an hour afterward. So great had been their terror. When Mama Mouse came back in the morning, bringing a quantity of nice flour with her for breakfast, they told her of their adventure. Mama Mouse was right, for Hickory and Dickory and Doc never ran off again. Well, I hope that you enjoyed that. Oh, I'm a little bit of a mess right now, but how interesting this whole story is. And it's about, obviously, like we talked about earlier, obedience. Those mice knew that they should have obeyed. And it's not even the fact that they were harmed in any way. They weren't, thankfully, but they could have been if they weren't very careful. That there could have been something worse that could have happened. Thankfully, it was only the clock banging, but it could have been a cat that came out, or a person that would have seen them and tried to harm them. So it's always important to listen to your parents because they know. So page 77, dig deeper. We have our play, our acts, and our scenes. What clue tells you that this is a fictional play? How do we know that this is fictional? We know it's not real, right? Because the animals are talking and animals don't talk. In which act, except for Avery's dog. Avery's dog does talk. I heard her yesterday on Facebook talking, and she had some very good things to say. But yeah, except for Avery's dog. But most animals don't talk. In which act and scene do Hickory, Dickory, and Doc leave their nest? Which act and which scene? So you might have to look back. Yes, act 2 and scene 1, that's when they just choose to leave the nest. How did Hickory, Dickory, and Doc change throughout the story? Excuse me, how did they change? In the beginning, what were they thinking? We just want to get out of this nest and we want to not be here, except for one. We know that one was a little more leery about it, but he went with the others just because that sometimes that happens. We need to be careful about that. But then by the end, what happened? They learned that Mama was right and she was keeping them safe and they need to listen to her. So I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. And I can't wait to see some of the videos that you guys performing our play today. All right, I'll be back a little bit later.